What's going on, Philosophy Nation? It's great to be back at your favorite podcast, right? What other podcast would you want to watch besides the most winning podcast? Go check out our new website. Look at the merch right behind me. Look how great it looks. It's tremendous, but not as tremendous as my guest tonight. When I tell you this guy is legit, he's probably one of the coolest guys we've ever had. And we had a lot of cool people. He was an Air Force Security Forces military police officer from 2011 to 2017 with attached Raven specialty. Some of his military awards consist of a Purple Heart, Combat Action Medal, Air Force Achievement Medal, Expert Marksmanship Medal. Now he's a full-time police officer. He's a SWAT team member, a firearms instructor, defense tactics instructor. I wish I had that when I was coaching flag football. A police academy instructor as well. 2 deployments in 2013 to Afghanistan and to Kuwait. In 2015 as a staged Raven, flying numerous flight security missions into undisclosed areas in Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mathew Zuniga.
Hey, how are you, Phil?
Matty Z, I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's a pleasure to be on here. Thank you for
Well,
having me.
it's our honor to have you. I see all your cool pins and medals back there, a couple coins. Tonight, I'm rocking my Air Force pin right on me. Matt,
Awesome.
right into it. Me and you, we had a great conversation earlier today, and you said, Phil, I can't wait to tell everybody about my comeback story, about the things that I did in the military in Afghanistan and all these different places. But you said, Phil, what I really going to tell everybody about, what is going to have everybody shocked is, Matt, you told me you got blown up.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So, Matt, if you could just take us through that story of what happened that day.
That was my first deployment in 2013, July 27, 2013 to be exact. One of our missions in Afghanistan was outside the wire mission, um, kind of conducting security outside the base, setting up observation posts, clearing coverts and stuff of that sort, just making the immediate area around the base safe. Um, on that specific night, we were on a regular patrol. I was a 50 cal gunner in a Delta truck in a MRAP, which is a mine-resistant ambush protection vehicle. These huge vehicles probably saved my life. If I was in a Humvee, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today. Um, just driving down the roadway, kind of doing business as usual. When I heard this loud explosion underneath my truck, time just kind of slowed down in the actual explosion. You know, 1 minute I'm sitting in the truck, standing in the truck actually, um, doing security. And next thing I know, everything just kind of slowing down. All of a sudden, I hear a loud bang. The truck just kind of lifts up in the air. I can actually see the 50 cal gun turret just kind of fly off the vehicle in slow motion. Um, I was I was thrown around a little bit. I think what saved me from actually flying out of the vehicle was the fact that I actually had my harness, which I tell any guys down range who are going who are going to be truck gunners, absolutely wear that harness. Saved my life. I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like to wear it. But 100% I can say that that harness kept me from flying out of the vehicle. So very thankful for that. Um, broke 4 bones in my back. The IED was the biggest IED. It was a 200-pound IED. It was the biggest IED in that specific district that they had seen since IEDs were blowing up underneath MRAPs. Broke 4 bones in my back. Still had a job to do though. You know, I wasn't completely incapacitated. I think partially because of the adrenaline. And the other factor was that we wanted to get out of the ambush zone. So still did my job. You know, still had to run security. Um, it was only by the grace that I was able to walk because the next morning at the hospital I couldn't even I couldn't even sneeze or laugh because like I said, L1 through L4 in my back all broken. Um, just you know, I look back at it and I wouldn't change it for the world, you know, that specific experience. Just because, you know, you hear people talk about near death experiences and I don't want to say shell shock because I wasn't shell shocked, but it feels, and I don't know if it's the chemistry with your body or how your brain works, but for me, when that specific incident happened, time actually felt like it was slowing down. I saw things in slow motion. Um, Literally from the uplift of the truck to seeing the 50 cal turret flown off to the banging around the side of the vehicle to looking down and looking at the guys in the truck. So it's quite the experience, and I joke around about it now when people tell me, how was your deployment? I just tell people, it was great. I had a blast. It was, right? You gotta have a sense of humor at the end of the day. Um, it was a tough deployment for my unit specifically. We had taken a lot of ambushes. I was actually the first casualty in regards to being injured and having to get medevac back home. But we suffered a few casualties at that deployment. We lost a good friend of mine, Staff Sergeant TJ Labreco, September 5th, 2013, in another ambush where he was KIA in a firefight. But again, a tough deployment. I wouldn't change any of the experiences that I had. It led me on to doing better and greater things in my life. So I'm very thankful and grateful for that experience. It sucked. Don't get me wrong, it sucked. Nobody wants to be blown up and have bones in their back broken. But yeah.
So explain to me how many times have you guys done that trip before, down that same spot in that same district before this happened?
Unfortunate reality is we had done it numerous times. So I want to say, I hate to say it, it wasn't an everyday thing, but it almost became predictable. And the thing about Afghanistan is there's so many culverts, there's so many of these little clearances underneath the roadways. There's literally hundreds of them, and just taking the time to check each and every one of them, I mean, you'll just never get the mission done. So unfortunately, the reality is just that it was kind of inevitable. The routes become almost predictable for bad guys, and it's thankfully we didn't lose anybody in that IED explosion. Just a couple injuries, mine being the most severe. But again, we would go on later, further down our deployment, to lose guys, and a lot of injuries, a lot of ambushes.
So at what point when the bomb goes off, what is going through your head? Are you thinking right then and there that I'm gonna die? Or what's going through your head? Is it more of I'm gonna die or how am I gonna survive?
No, it's literally like, oh shit, in slow motion. It's like,
Like, oh fuck, we just got
yeah,
blown up.
like fuck, as the explosion's happening. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if I was gonna die or not. The explosion seemed like it lasted probably like 10 seconds. And it probably didn't even last half of that.
Wow.
But because time just slowed down, and I kind of, for me, it was like drug out. It was like this oh shit feeling. And then the relief I got when the truck actually came to a rest, and and I was still alive, was that was pretty intense.
I actually think I'm gonna have Jake pull up the photo. I think we actually have a photo of you in the truck that we
Okay.
is this you in the truck? Is that the truck?
I can't see anything. I just see you.
Oh, you just told me. If I'll text it to you right now, and then we could. That's how we'll go on that. But when you so the bomb goes off, immediately going through your head is oh shit. From other experiences that you had before, does anything ever come close to this moment? I actually just sent you the photo that we just pulled up. We'll pull up.
Well, yeah. So that is an MRAP truck that we're using. But that's not me on deployment, but that is me on an MRAP. That's actually
Okay.
me conducting firearms training with a bunch of SWAT teams on the
And you
range with
were and you
MRAP
were in,
vehicles.
so you're in that hole when the bomb goes off.
Correct. Yes, I'm inside that hole standing
Oh my god. So now,
with a
does this
pistol
happen at
caliber.
night? Or did this happen mid daylight?
No, this happened at night. A good high number percentages of the ambushes happened during nighttime hours.
Right. So now a majority of people they don't know, right? They know, okay, so the bomb goes off. Were there any other trucks behind you guys or in front of you guys that saw the bomb go off that then were able to call for the backup to come in and rescue you guys?
I actually called over the radio. We were hit as soon as the explosion went off. So us being the Delta truck, if you think of like the phonetic alphabet in the military, you got Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, depending on how many trucks you have. But if you have four, you typically have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. I was a Delta truck, meaning I was the last truck. Statistically, when these ambush IEDs happen, it's typically either the first truck or the last truck. I think a more high percentage of the last truck. So, um, yeah, it's uh statistically I was like designed to blow up if you put the statistics and where we were at. But yeah, we worked nighttime hours. I want to say it was about 12 to 14 hour shifts.
What were the injuries to the rest of the guys in the truck?
We had one guy who had he split his head open pretty good. He was leaking pretty bad. I remember him. I'm not going to disclose any names for anyone who's alive, just to protect their privacy.
Right.
But I remember actually getting down from the gunner hatch there and just providing basic first aid around his head. I remember I was trying to just get the bleeding to stop. At that point in time, I really wasn't worried about my injuries. I was just more concerned about my guys. I knew we had to get off the X. I could hear guys communicating on the radio, kind of counter ambush procedures, and we just needed to work to get out of there. The bottom line is, when you're in an ambush and you get hit and your truck's incapacitated and you can no longer drive, you got to get off the X because you don't know what's coming next.
You're doing all this with a broken back, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know it was broken until the next day in the hospital. Like I said, it was just pure adrenaline. I actually remember after I got out the truck, and I was like, it felt like a sharp pain. It felt like someone put a knife in my lower back. And I remember reaching over to my lower back because I was like, fuck, I hope I didn't get penetrated with any steel or anything like that or any metal. And I looked at my hand, there was no blood, so I was like, oh, that's great news for me. But I remember the first step I took out of the MRAP, I almost collapsed because I just couldn't hold my own weight. And I actually had a buddy of mine, had to kind of like arm over shoulder, had to carry me to the next MRAP. I'm hopping around on one foot on the shoulder, and we're going through this IED explosion where it blew up. It was probably the size of a school bus. That's how big the crater was. It was huge. At least at the time, to me, it was huge because I remember having to go through that and basically being one arm carried through there. But I just looked at that, looked at the truck, and I'm just like, fuck, Jesus. But I was thankful to be alive. And again, we still had work to do. So the priority was get off X, do what we needed to do, and get out of there. And then we'll assess, my injuries somewhere in a safer location.
So as I'm looking through your record and all your awards, is this what you got your Purple Heart for? Was this?
Yes, for my injuries. Yep. That is what I received the Purple Heart for.
So this is the largest IED to ever go off in that district of Afghanistan.
At the time, yes, a 200-pound IED. Yep. And they find out upon further investigation, they wound up finding out how the IED was set off. They were actually just kind of running wire through the field, 50 meters, 100 meters out. They're kind of blowing up cars and then going into these holes. They kind of learn and evolve because I think a few months prior to that, they were doing the same thing, doing ambush IEDs. The only problem is they weren't going on the ground, so they were getting blown up by our aircraft, which good for us. But they were adapting, and they were constantly changing their tactics. So,
what was the feeling that going through you when you got the Purple Heart?
oh Jesus, I was angry because to me at the time the Purple Heart wasn't something that I was proud of. In hindsight, and it's just because it was like I was thankful to be alive. I truly didn't feel like I deserved it at the time because guys, there were hundreds of thousands of people who died who've been awarded the Purple Heart for more severe injuries than me. My injury was combat related. I did have to spend about 14, 15 weeks on Walter Reed. I did break 4 bones in my back. I was unable to walk for a long time. I did have to go through physical therapy and all that, but I think I was just angry, because to me it was like a terrorist marksman ribbon, like these fuckers got me. But
like a second place trophy almost.
Yeah, exactly. And but I found out days later that they eventually located and dealt with the people responsible for that.
Did they kill him?
I cannot disclose that information.
Okay. So for my viewers, you could take that as either a yes or no. You can make your own disclosure with that. I think we might know what the answer is to that. Hopefully it's one we all hope for. What was your recovery from those injuries? after the Purple Heart. And how long did it take you to get back out to Afghanistan? Did you go back out after that?
No, I remember crying in the doctors. I cried in the hospital in Afghanistan where I was at because the doctor said, I was like, hey doc, I could just stay here for a couple days, and get back there. I really don't want to leave. And the doctor pretty much told me, he's like, no, according to your injuries, you're going to be out for at least 6 months before you fully heal. And I remember him telling me that, an inch over to my spine, and I probably could have been paralyzed. So, I was grateful for that I wasn't severely injured to the point where I was paralyzed, because literally an inch over would have been my spine. Um, and just very emotional and upset that I had to leave my guys. I came there with my squad. I wanted to leave with my squad. I wanted to stay there with my squad. I was just getting into the routine of things. Um, so it hurt me more emotionally than physically to have to be separated from my squad. And ultimately, I wound up going to Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland. I spent about 14, 15 months out there, I believe, doing PT, recovering. And then eventually I would leave there and continue doing recovery back home.
Throughout the time that you were at Walter Reed, how many other guys were in there from Afghanistan that you were able to connect with who had similar things? And when you look and when you tell people your story, what's their first reaction?
Um, well, first, being in Walter Reed was eye opening to me, because there were veterans, wounded veterans in there who had suffered uh, much more severe injuries than I could have ever suffered. I mean, you're talking about from every branch too. There wasn't just one specific branch. Um, you had guys missing limbs, you had guys missing multiple limbs, um, you had guys missing arms, you had guys that were, the sole survivors of unit attacks. Um, it was tough seeing that. I almost felt like I didn't belong there. It was against I didn't have any say. The doctor's like, this is where you're going. Um, but to see these guys, to me, these heroes, these service members, these brothers and these sisters, whether they're from other branches or not, to see them walking around, some of them really messed up. It kind of put things into perspective for me, and it made me very grateful. Um, and it just made me, it made me super honored and excited to be part of the U.S. military. One of the toughest militaries in the entire world, um, in my opinion. Just to serve alongside some of these people, because people gave the ultimate sacrifice, and to me, like, I can never repay that debt. Some of these guys lost a lot, you know. So to connect with some of these guys and find out their stories, and help them get through some of the process, because some people suffer from severe PTSD, and to be able to be a support system for guys I didn't even know, to me that just brought a satisfaction that I can't even explain.
How long did it take them to catch the guys that did this to you?
I want to say it was fairly quickly. I believe it was in like the next day or two.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
they
So
got to work almost that next day. Retracing everything. As soon as the sunlight came out. So you'd be surprised. They worked fairly quickly. So
now
especially when you injure one of your own.
a lot of people don't know about this, but when something like this happens to guys in the troops, or when a guy in the military gets shot and gets killed, how much of a stoppage is that put in the mission that you guys were going on? How long is that mission delayed for? Does the first priority become we have to now go catch these guys, or does it we'll do it after we complete the mission?
Well, it depends, because everyone's job has a unique mission in Afghanistan. So although our job is different from many other jobs, obviously, we may not be the guys directly involved in getting the people who set off the ID. It may be a combination of special forces, local forces. It may not always be our guys, from that unit. Um, and sometimes it's probably better off that way, because you get units that suffer like a mass casualty incident, or they lose multiple guys. You really don't want those same guys going out there looking for bad guys, because uh, they already feel like they have a weight on their shoulder, an emotional attachment almost. So you almost want a fresh set of boots out there, fresh set of eyes, a whole nother unit going out there and looking for those guys.
So after not being able to rejoin your guys back in Afghanistan, what was your game plan moving forward?
Um, I had a long road to recovery, physically, mentally. I was actually cooped up in Walter Reed when I found out my roommate, Staff Sergeant Labrego, passed away in Afghanistan. He was part of our Reaper team. So just as I was getting on the up and up, I found out the news that happened, and then I kind of went into uh, I kind of went into hiding in Walter Reed. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I kept isolated. That I could deal with the physical pain. The physical pain was never an issue. I've never had an issue with physical pain. It did hurt. It did suck. There were days I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stand. And even now, once in a while I'll get flare ups in my back where the injury occurred. But the emotional, it was an emotional injury that took a toll on me much worse than the actual physical injury. So I had a long road to recovery, a lot of rehab, a lot of talks with other veterans and counselors, and the bottom line is we're tough, right? We're resilient, but the problem is sometimes we can let our ego get in the way and not get the help that we may need. So with anything, you recognize there's an issue, and you have to address it. It doesn't just go away. Whether it's the emotional, the physical toll, it has to be addressed. And you have to deal with it. You have to be able to overcome it. You have to be able to talk to people about it. You have to be able to be open about it and say, "There's an issue. I need help," and take your ego out of the equation.
At what point in your life did you then say, "Okay, now I'm gonna go become a police officer. I have all these awards. I have a Purple Heart, a Combat Action Medal, an Air Force Achievement Medal, and an Expert Marksmanship Medal." At what point now were you like, "Now I'm gonna go become a cop." Now you're a SWAT team member.
I've always wanted to become a cop. So my goal before I even got into the military was to become in law enforcement.
What made you go into the military?
Well, a couple reasons. One, the fact that where I was living at the time, the military base was literally in my backyard. I had the opportunity to join, and I actually joined as a guardsman. So I had the opportunity to join as Air National Guardsman. Um, I was able to finish college in between deployments. I was able to deploy and come back home, kind of focus on my own things, school, work, whatever I had going on. Deploy again when I wanted to. So the convenience for me was a big thing because I was able to balance both the military life and my personal life. Um, and I went right into military police because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do law enforcement eventually outside of the military.
Right. So being a part of the SWAT team members, I'm sure you've done a lot of raids of drug cartels, drugs, all this stuff, ICE, people like that, helping out those guys. Can you take us to one of those stories about one of the raids that you've been doing?
Um, so most SWAT teams, they typically do high risk stuff. My department is a small department, so our SWAT team is part time. However, we do train monthly, so we're always training and keeping up to speed and uh, you know maintaining that proficiency. So um, I have been involved in a handful of search warrant executions where we're knocking down doors at an early time in the morning. Whether we're looking for guns, drugs, bad people, felony warrants, parole warrants. So I've been involved in a handful of those. It's quite the experience. If I could,
You have a story about one for us?
um, well, without giving too much information about too much information, um, I mean, from the first one that I've done to the most recent one that I've done, I'd say the most one I remember is us hitting a house at super early in the morning, and one of the bad guys actually climbing out of the roof. Climbing out of the window onto the roof of his house to see like
Sounds
all these
awesome.
police cars lined up, and we're coming up the stairs, and he's trying to jump off the roof, and he realizes there's nowhere to go. So he kind of just gives up because he's like, this can go one of two ways, and you hope that people take the path of least resistance when you do these things, because that's always the best case scenario. Honestly, you can train as much as you want, but as soon as you go through that door, it's just a lot of unknown variables. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know if there's dogs coming at you. You don't know if there's a kid coming at you. If there's another kid in the room, if grandma's in the room, if bad guys in the room with a gun waiting for us to come in. You got to do things right. That's why it's very important we train up to do what we do, because we're held to a higher standard out there. You know, we're knocking down people's doors at whatever time in the morning. Um, it's quite an adrenaline rush in a way that it's almost like you're going into a fight. You know, because you can train and train and train and train and train. You know, going up to your biggest fight, but there's always that unknown, kind of like the unknown that you have no control over. You know, um, the variables you can't account for. So it's definitely adrenaline rush. I love where I work. I love doing what I do. I love training. You know, that's why I'm tasked with uh, training and teaching defensive tactics and firearms and stuff like that.
We talked about Afghanistan, and we can't not talk about Afghanistan without talking about what happened in Afghanistan in August. I mean, what are your full, no filter thoughts on what just happened in Afghanistan and what's happening
Um,
there still?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, in regards to my opinions and political views and anything, those are solely mine. Those don't represent, anyone in the military where I used to be at. They don't reflect anything in my police department. They're mine and solely mine. So first and foremost, um, I'm with a lot of people in regards to. I think the withdrawal was done very poorly. You know, unfortunately, we suffered a huge loss when we lost those Marines. A huge loss. And I think that could have been mitigated. I don't think you can mitigate every single death, but I think you could mitigate a mass casualty incident like that by better planning. You know, things were very poorly planned and rushed. And I just think there should have been more time taken from this administration in planning that out. So I think it was a huge letdown. I think it was a huge disaster. And again, I just think that they could have definitely planned much better.
Well, Matt, we're running out of time on the show. I just want to thank you so much for coming on and thank you for everything that you've done. I mean, one of the biggest bombs to ever go off in Afghanistan, and you're still alive. Somebody asked me before, they go, "Well, who's coming on the podcast?" They go, "Is he a cool guy? Like, we gonna like him?" I go, "Got blown up." I go, "Spoiler alert." I go, "He's alive." They're like, "Oh, no way." They go, "Does he still have like his arms?" I go, He's got everything." I go, "This
Yeah.
guy's a beast."
I'm
Guy's a
grateful
beast.
for all that. I'm grateful to have all my limbs and be able to do what I do every day and wake up in the morning and just get after it.
Well, Matt, listen, it's an honor. From me, from my staff here at the Philosophy Podcast, from Arnaud, uh, all of our amazing winning athletes that are coming on, a new thing that we have. Uh, I want to thank you. And with that being said, Matt, we'll see you soon. For everybody else, stay tuned as we enter No More Bullshit.
Thank you. God bless you all. God bless America.
Welcome back inside to No More Bullshit. As you can see, look at the bull and look at this guy. What a good looking guy he is. He looks kind of familiar. But anyway, what is the bullshit that's going on in our country or anywhere? Well, we've just had a military kind of political episode, not really too political. What a hero. Biggest bomb. That's not bullshit. What a great episode. But you know what is bullshit? The gas prices that keep going up in our country. And you know what their answer to it is? Well, it's okay. Here's the thing, everybody. They all talk about, oh, we have to tax the 1%. You got to tax them. They don't care about the gas prices. It only hurts the middle and the lower class. People with four or more people in their families who are paying $100. You've got guys who are driving. Then they go, honey, I'm not going to be home for dinner. Why, sweetie? Well, the car broke down. Why? Because I didn't have enough money to pay $100 to put in a quarter of a tank of gas. Okay, sweetie, but we can't eat tonight. Why? Because he's going to the grocery store. But guess what? He's got to go there because when she went today, there was no food at the grocery store because of inflation. There's no food. Gas is way too expensive. That's bullshit. We'll see you next week on the Philosophy Podcast.